At some point, we ended up in the family waiting room in ICU, and police officers came in to tell us what they knew and share with us that it was in fact a drunk driver that had hit them.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs Mental Health, free safe space for people to share and learn from others' experiences with mental health and addictions. I'm Todd Rennebaum, suicide attempt survivor and a recovering substance abuser. We've got another great episode here. This one was originally out in April 2022. This is my first time re-releasing an episode. I thought I would do it because I've been working really hard on the podcast lately, and I could use a couple weeks off. So this week and next week, it's going to be re-released episodes that I think there's been a lot of new listeners lately, and maybe they haven't gone all the way through the library of episodes yet. So these ones are some really great episodes that, bump them up to the top of the pile. And I think they're great. And then January 4th, there'll be a brand new episode, a brand new type of episode. It's going to be Mental Health Headline Hot Takes, and that's going to be out every Thursday. That's with me and Nick Thompson, who has his own podcast, Eyes Wide Open, and he was on Love is Blind. And he was a guest not too long ago. And then Saturdays will be the regular show that you already know and love, with guests talking about their experiences and whatnot. So starting the new year, there'll be 2 episodes a week. Before we jump into this episode, though, I just want to plant a seed in people's brains that the food bank is always looking for food in your local community. So if you find yourself with maybe too much food in your house, or you just want to give away something for somebody, make someone's day, please go to your local food bank and donate money, food, whatever. There's homeless people and less fortunate people in every community, and they could really benefit from those donations. So please consider doing that. Also, if you want to win a $25 gift card from Co-op, this is mostly Western Canadian listeners. This contest is for. All you have to do is go to Apple Podcasts, look at Bunny Hugs Mental Health, leave a rating and review, take a screenshot, and email that screenshot to bunnyhugspodcast@gmail.com. And on January 31st, I will draw 4 names, and you will win $25 from Co-op. But anyway, with this episode, it originally aired in April 2022. It is with Chad Mierau and Spencer Michel. Chad lost his sister, her husband, and their 2 kids to a drunk driver. It was a horrible thing, but Chad turned that around, and he found forgiveness and love, and now he's become the best friend and kind of a mentor of the drunk driver's son, Spencer. And it's just a wonderful story of forgiveness and whatnot, and yeah, it's just a really great story. And I talked to them both. So without further ado, I give you Chad and Spencer.
My sister was my best friend. Her and I were very close, talked nearly every day. He knew pretty well everything that was going on in my life. And, anytime we had things going on with kids on my end or things with kids on her end, we always bounced all that kind of stuff back and forth with each other. And just had this really close-knit relationship. And I was close with my niece and nephew just as much as I was with my own kids. Little Miguire was 2 when the car crash happened. And, a 2-year-old at Christmas time with mini sticks running around, just learning how to smack a ball around and running into furniture. And, we always say sorry in my house because that's what he did at Christmas time. He ran into the couch playing hockey with his little mini sticks at Christmas, and he apologized to the couch. So, we kind of joke about that kind of stuff, and in a way it's kind of to share their memory and some of the good things that we remember about them. But Miguire was just a goer. He was just getting his wheels, and 2 years old and full of energy and spunk and finding his words and figuring out, what he was interested in doing and playing with. And didn't really sit still. And Kamryn was much the same, only with a little more sass and a little more attitude. At 5 years old, she would have no problem giving you the one-liners or ribbing you a little bit, or sarcasm, just really coming into her own little personality at 5 years old. So it's hard not to be close to little ones at that age when they're in your family. And we spent a lot of time with them, even different events like birthdays and Christmases and Easters and all the family holidays. We were always with them and hanging out with them. So very, very close to all four. And Jordan, he was a very avid photographer. He took thousands upon thousands of pictures. We're super thankful for that, because we have tons and tons of pictures of those two little ones, and I was in quite a few of them as well. Jordan, not so much, because he was behind the camera. He loved his Northern Lights, and the nighttime pictures with stars and Northern Lights. He was out nearly every weekend to get the next best shot. So he was involved with a very close-knit community with the photography world, and that was his passion. Just a genuine, caring, loving guy, and he would do anything to help people, whether it was strangers or family or close friends. It didn't really matter. He would do whatever he had to do or needed to do to help and support. And my sister was much the same, just a total giver. She would give her shirt off her back just to help the next person out in any way she could. So four really beautiful, amazing people, and close, very close with their family and friends, and very involved with community, very involved with just helping out in any way they could, or any way they could. With Chandra was into sports, and she played hockey with the Huskies here in Saskatoon for 4 years or 5 years, I forget. And from there, she became a sports therapist, so helping people navigate through sports injuries and other injuries. So just total giver, and always helping. When she passed away, her work put pictures up of her in the office with her. They called it the Shanda smile. She always had a smile. She was known for it. And it didn't matter what was going on in her life or what was happening. Just always this ear-to-ear smile. So, again, leaning on some of those memories and remembering that smile. And Kamryn was shaping out to be much the same at 5 years old, just always running around with that big smile on her face too.
So, do you mind telling me about how you found out about the crash and a little bit about that night? Like, I know it's in the book, but which, by the way, I have, and it's this is the first book I've read where I started sobbing. The first couple chapters are just so gut-wrenching and heartbreaking. I mean, I don't know if I'm selling the book or not, but it just is so touching and so heartbreaking. But if you don't mind, just kind of describing that day and how you found out, and
Absolutely.
kind of where the family met and stuff.
Okay. First of all, I'll touch on what you said about the book. I wanted to put something down on page that was real and was raw and was truth. I didn't beat around the bush in any way. I said how I was feeling, how I was doing, and I laid the truth out in the rawness that comes with it. So having that emotion reading the book, I don't know how you can't have that kind of emotion reading that book, because it's just that raw, and it hits close to everybody's heart. So for sure, it brings the emotions out. as far as, learning about what happened, it was the dreaded phone call that everybody, sort of hears about or sees in a movie. 3 o'clock in the morning, the phone ringing, and just picking up the phone and somebody in the other end. It was a voice that I knew. It was a local police officer. And he shared with me that there was a terrible car accident and that my sister and my brother-in-law were in it. And it wasn't good. My memory of that phone is quite vague. If I was to tell you the exact words he used, I'd be guessing. But the long and the short of it is, he shared with me that Chandra and Jordan were killed in the car crash, and as I'm absorbing those words, I'm immediately thinking about the kids and wondering if Kamryn and Miguire were even in the car, or were they somewhere else, or, so that was my next question for him. And he wanted to avoid answering that question. He was quite uncomfortable on the other end of the line, and he wondered if he could send somebody to come and pick me up and, share the rest of the story with me, and perhaps even get me to the hospital where the four of them were. And I basically said, I can handle it. Tell me what's going on. And he said, well, it truthfully doesn't look very good for the two kids either. They were also in the car, and Miguire was essentially pronounced dead at the scene, and Kamryn, and he wasn't too sure. He kind of alluded to the fact that things were not good, and I needed to get there to find out the rest of the story, or what was going on. So from there, I picked myself up off the floor. My knees buckled, my body just gave out, and I found myself laying on the floor and needing to get up and go to the hospital. So it's at that point, it was getting myself to RUH. They were all I knew was the kids were in the NICU at RUH. So I went racing over there. The drive took 30 seconds and 30 years at the same time. I got there not knowing what I was going to see or what I was going to come into. And when I arrived, Miguire was in a room, and Jordan's mom and dad were there holding little Miguire. And I had the opportunity to come in the room and see Miguire and, see his body and what he looked like. And obviously, you could tell he wasn't doing so good, and he was beat up. And getting an opportunity to hold him, and they had a breathing apparatus on him, helping him pump air into his lungs. I suspect actually that he was already gone before I got there, but they were allowing some of us as family members to, take an opportunity to see him kind of at the end stage. And let me tell you, there's nothing tougher than seeing that with a 2-year-old. Especially him and I were really tight. And he always used to he'd hold my finger with his little hand. And, he wasn't doing that. He wasn't moving. He wasn't talking. He wasn't crying. He wasn't anything. And that's likely one of the toughest things I've ever had to do, was come into a room and see that happening. And then from there, I don't know how long later, could have been minutes, could have been hours. I'm not exactly sure, but figuring out that Kamryn was just across the hall in ICU, and she was hooked up to all kinds of machines to keep her body going. We learned that they thought, the doctors thought that she was brain damaged, dead, and they had to determine that and go through the test to figure out if that was the case or what was happening exactly with her. So just those first few hours, hanging out with my niece and nephew in the hospital, and having to accept some harsh realities. Very tough.
Oh yeah, God, I can't even imagine. I don't know what to say, but I just can't even imagine. I did an episode about grief the other day, and like, this is like grief times 4. Like, plus their tragedies. It's not like a parent who's up in age, who is, it's just a horrible, horrible story. I can't even imagine what your family went through. So eventually that day, both the kids ended up passing. You guys decided as a family to take them off life support, or?
Yeah, so Miguire was gone as I was arriving, or shortly after, or shortly before. I'm not exactly sure, but sometime around then. And Kamryn was pronounced brain dead later that day, and stayed on machines to keep her organs going. We elected to donate her organs and tissues and everything that we possibly could as a family unit. We all agreed that was what they would have wanted, and a little girl full of zest in life, and so happy, and so just full of life. We knew that needed to carry on if at all possible, so we elected to do that, donate organs. So yeah, essentially in the first day, learning that all 4 were gone, or going to be, they didn't actually pronounce Kamryn dead until the next day, until the machines were all disconnected and organs donated and everything that they could do with that. So 3 in one day and 1 the next. And yeah, man, it was tough, really tough.
And it was in the hospital you found out it was the other driver was alive and well, and it was a drunk driver.
Yes. At some point, we ended up in the family waiting room in ICU, and police officers came in to tell us what they knew and share with us that it was in fact a drunk driver that had hit them. Up until then, we didn't really have any information, and if anything was said, it was I didn't catch it until we were actually in the waiting room, and all of us as whatever family members were there at the time, hearing from the police officer that actually was on scene. Him and his partner were literally, he thought within 90 seconds of the accident. They happened to be going by just when it was happening, so they were on scene right away. And I'll never forget, he shared that he assessed what was happening, and he actually held Miguire's hand, and those words stuck with me and still do today. I have visions of that. I can only imagine what it's like coming onto a scene like that. But yeah, learning it was a drunk driver who was okay, and she went to hospital just to get checked out, and she was basically just scratches and otherwise fine. So learning that in itself was tough. 4 in one car gone, and the driver caused it was virtually unscathed and fine.
So now, fast forward a bit. She's obviously charged. You have to, well, you don't have to, but you go to court and you see, can I mention her name? I guess it's in the book. It's Kamryn.
Yeah, Kamryn, yeah.
You see, what was it like seeing Kamryn the first time and actually, being in the same room as her, seeing her? What kind of emotions were you going through then?
We so the first couple of court dates were hearings, and some of us as family members wanted to go to see her in person. Initially, I think throw daggers with eyes and just anger, lots of anger, maybe even a little bit of rage, hard feelings, of course, and going to those hearings and learning that she was on Skype, she was on video conference, so she actually wasn't there in person during the hearings. Now, once court in July happened, where the sentencing was happening, she was in fact there in person, and at that time, I heard her read her court statement, and I felt the emotion in her voice. She did cry. She did share emotion. I felt she did share, remorse, and she was sorry. And, those were important things for us to hear and to feel, for me, for sure. Her court statement and what she read stuck with me. She essentially, at one point, stated that she would like to spend the rest of her life preventing a tragedy like this from happening to other families. And that, those words stuck with me. I hoped that she would continue with those thoughts and, want to do something productive later in life, whether it's while she's incarcerated or after, towards, preventing this from happening to other people.
Right. But actions speak louder than words. So, yeah.
Truth, my friend.
Yeah. So eventually you decided to meet her children. And was that, when you made that decision, had you already decided to start writing the book, or was it meeting them that kind of inspired you to start writing the book?
I met them first. Initially, it was a curiosity. I wondered how their family was doing. I started putting some thought into what would it be like to get a phone call saying that your mom caused this accident. And, did she have kids? Did they get those phone calls? Where were they when that happened? How were they doing? Are they able to talk to their mom? Are they able to forgive? I had all these curiosities and questions in my head. And that led me in late 2018 to reach out to one of her daughters. I had learned through social media on some of the forums and things that I was following when I couldn't sleep at 3:00 in the morning. Her daughter was commenting on some of the things that were going on. So I sort of had figured out the family name and who they were. And that led me to reach out in December of 2018 and share my forgiveness with Kamryn's daughter.
So you had forgiven.
I remember. Pardon me?
Sorry, the Skype went wacky for a second there. You had already forgiven Kamryn before you had met the family, or?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
That all unfolded in 2016, going through my grief journey. I really had to dive deep into figuring out who the heck I was and what I was made of. And in turn, taking a long look in the mirror and, understanding some of the things that I've done wrong in my life. And once I was able to sort of give myself some grace and be at peace with who I was, that allowed me to investigate further into, Catherine and her life and her family, which then eventually led me to reach out to Catherine's daughter. And, the response that I got from Catherine's daughter was nothing short of amazing. I refer to it in my book as, healing hearts, healing together. And just, it doesn't matter that we're on two sides of the story. We're all hurting. We're all grieving. We're all trying to navigate through this terrible situation. So reaching out to her adult children and, eventually sitting down face to face with four of them. Catherine's daughters, I've sat down and talked to a couple of them, and her sons, two of her sons, and, just sharing how we're feeling and how we're doing. And completely awkward in the first conversations, right? There's hesitations on both sides. There was apprehensions on both sides, for them. I can only imagine, what is this guy wanting to talk to us for? And, is he meaning well, or is he going to throw daggers at us? Because they were throwing everything. People were so mean to them. They didn't do it, their mom did. And people were making them guilty by association. People were sending them death threats and calling them names, and just bad, so bad, really, really harsh. So I can only imagine me coming in, and wanting to have a conversation with them, a lot of apprehension on their side for sure. And then on my side, it was more of a, I really wanted to know how they were doing. And that's where it all started. Reaching out to them and curious how they're coping and how they're doing. I was sort of imagining if one of my parents was incarcerated and went away, how would I feel? How would I be doing? And that's what led me to reach out to them.
Let me ask you this question. Have you ever drove drunk in the past?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I hadn't. When I was young, I certainly had.
Yeah, same. And going through your book, I thought many times, like, man, that could have easily have been me killing an entire family or anybody or myself or whatever. I don't know how many times, it's like, yeah, that doesn't excuse anything, but she's just a woman who made a mistake, just like a lot of other people do. And like her kids, like you said, they had absolutely nothing to do with this. So it drives me crazy that people are saying things to them online and whatever. But I know Spencer, who's going to be joining us soon, he was very apprehensive because of that. He didn't want people knowing him, or he's scared that it would start all over again, which I just don't understand. I don't understand people. I don't understand their logic. If you can forgive them, well, you don't even have to forgive them. If you can forgive their mother, who's the person that actually was the one that was in the car, then why the hell can't people just leave them alone? I don't understand. But
Agreed.
It doesn't make much sense. But what did your family think of you talking with her family?
That was an interesting thing in itself. When I mentioned to my sister and my mom that I was thinking about going to see Catherine's kids, they didn't really know what to say. They didn't really know what to do, what to think. And it was, even to this day, I would say that they're not quite to the point where I am. I don't think they're as far along in, the forgiveness journey. And and the wording around that's really tough to say or put into something that, truly portrays it, because everybody's grief and everybody's forgiveness, everybody's grace, everybody's, perception of events is so different and so vast. So, it was my journey to have, right? And, my family supports me, even if they don't 100% agree with me. There's certainly, I would say they agree. I just don't know how much. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Because
that's all I can ask for, really.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. You don't have to understand. You just have to support me, right? And that's fine.
Right.
Hello, Spencer. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me.
How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, my man.
We just got to the point where Chad was meeting you and your family. Do you mind if we just jump right into it?
No, go ahead.
What was that first meeting with Chad like for you?
It was a little I would say nerve-wracking the first time around. Like, I don't know, you don't know what to expect when you meet someone under those circumstances, right? Like I don't know, like we hit it off right away, and we became like comfortable talking to each other right away. But at first, like I didn't invite him into my home. Like, I had him meet me in my garage. He brought us coffee, and we sat, and what I thought was gonna be maybe like an hour meeting of a lot of uncomfortableness turned out to be, I think he sat with us for probably like 4.5, 5 hours, and we just sat there and talked, and in the end, it didn't end with like a handshake. It ended with a hug. So it was a lot different than what I expected it to be at first. Like, I thought it was going to be something different. I didn't think I was going to make that sort of connection with Chad, especially not that quickly, but definitely was not what was expected, for sure.
Right. Now let's back up a little bit. I keep smacking my mic. How did you find out about the crash that your mom was involved in?
I think it was about midnight. Actually, the next day, I think it was. We didn't even know it had happened. My sister phoned me, and I was getting ready for bed. And she phoned me, and she said, "Are you sitting down?" And I mean, obviously, anyone who phones you and says, "Are you sitting down?" It's usually not good things that come after, right? And we didn't know what happened. Like, we weren't given any information. No one told us anything. We just knew that she was in a crash where people had died. We didn't know if she was even alive. So at that point, we were preparing for the worst. Like, she was like, "Yeah, Mom was in a car accident. I don't know what's going on. I don't know where she is. All I know is that people are dead." And yeah, so like at first, we actually thought that our mom was dead.
And then, so when did you find out?
It wasn't until the day after that, actually. My sister had to like call all over the place and try to get in contact with anybody who knew anything. And it was at that point that we found out that she was in jail, and she had caused the accident, and that she had blew triple the legal limit. So then, I mean, that was a whole nother batch of emotions, from going from the consideration that she may possibly have been dead to she killed people. Like,
that was about 6 years ago now. Was it 2016?
Yeah.
What kind of emotions do you have towards your mother now, knowing what had happened? And like, I can't imagine I don't even know what I would feel. Like, I'm genuinely curious how you felt about hearing that news.
To be honest, like, for the first couple of years, I didn't have any contact with her. Not totally because I didn't want to or anything. I just didn't have the means to at the time. I lived way up north, and I actually didn't even own a phone. I had no way of, like, because to talk to someone in jail, you have to like register your number and everything, and you have to have like a phone number where she can phone you at any time, kind of thing and stuff. So I actually had like no contact with her for about 2 years. She wrote me a letter once. I don't know. I didn't know how to say anything to her, so I never wrote back right away. And to be honest, I don't think I ever wrote to her when she was in jail. I don't think I ever sent a letter back. Eventually, I did get contact with her over the phone, and so we started to talk. And I don't know, like I felt bad for her for the situation she was in, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I felt really betrayed by everything, like, because like I said before, like I've said in the past, like it's hard to feel bad for her in the situation she was in, when, you know, I grew up my whole life being told, you know, don't drink and drive, you know, if you're out drinking and you need a ride, you call, you know, to the point where like my mom would literally physically force keys from my friend's hands so we wouldn't drive. So like I don't know, I felt really betrayed to be like, you drank to that excess amount and then you decided it was okay to drive after. Like, did you not think about me or your grandkids or your other kids or your mom or any of your family? Did you not think about the people that might be affected by that? You know, like, so yeah, it was really hard to talk to her for a really long time.
This wasn't a common thing for her to do, to drive drunk?
I mean, there had been times in the past where she's probably definitely had too much to drink, but successfully made it home from the restaurant after or from the bar or whatever. And there was definitely times where she probably thought she was in control, where she was actually didn't have as much control as she probably should have, and put in a rough situation. It could have ended poorly, you know, but it wasn't like, no, she didn't like drink and drive every single day of her life. She wasn't always drinking and driving. It was something that had happened in the past, like anybody else. Sometimes you think, oh, I haven't had too much to drink. I ate a big meal. You know, yeah, I watched the football game and drank some beer, but I had a big meal and I haven't had a drink for 45 minutes and I feel okay. I can drive home. And many people do that and many people make it home, but many people don't make it home too. So,
yeah, just before you got on, Chad and I were talking about how we've both drank and drove in the past, and I could have easily been one of us at some point that caused a crash similar to this. So I know you were hesitant about talking to me about this because of complete assholes online. Are you still hesitant, I guess, or still worried about that?
Well, to be honest, yeah, there's still that's always going to be something I have to consider. Like, you know, I put my face out there, I put my name out there, and you never know who my face or name is going to come up to in the future, where they're going to be like, oh, you're connected to this situation. Or like, I've had people send me threats. I've had people who, you know, in the past have threatened me or threatened my children, wished us to be dead, things like that. And so those are things that you have to consider every time that you talk about this subject and you put yourself out there like that. But I had originally told you I wasn't going to be here today, that I couldn't do this for that reason. But, you know, in the past and even recently as well, like, Chad's helped me so many times and been there for me when I needed him. And if me being here shows some sort of strength in what Chad's doing and in his book and in the way that he lives his life, you know, the way that he's affected my life for the better, like, I'll do whatever I can to help my brother Chad. So
today's episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health is brought to you by Co-op. I've been a member of my local co-op, Sherwood Co-op, for about 25 years, I think. My co-op is one of more than 150 local independent cooperative associations in more than 600 communities across Western Canada. Co-op is a different kind of business. It's not just a gas bar or a grocery store, although co-op is those things too. At its core, co-op is a group of people working together to help their neighbors and build their community. Co-op members are owners, and success is shared with everyone. Your co-op doesn't benefit one person or one corporation. Your co-op was built for everyone. Your co-op was built for your community. Learn more about co-op and find a location near you at coop.crs. One thing I've learned through my experience with mental health and addictions is you never know what you need to hear until you hear it. Make sure to rate and review on Apple and to tell as many people as you can about the podcast so others can hear something they need to hear from one of my guests. After all, this is a free mental health service, which is a rare thing, So why not share with as many people as you can? That's amazing. It's amazing that you guys call each other brothers. Like, this is... I read the article in CBC, and I knew of the story before, but I didn't realize that you guys were tight and that Chad was writing this book and stuff. It's inspirational for one Chad to just completely forgive and to reach out to your mom and to your family and to do this, and that you guys are tight and bond over it. You hear of it once in a while, but I don't know. It's just amazing to me. What have you guys learned from each other through this process? Because for me, like learning forgiveness, but Chad probably learned something from you too. So I'll throw that question to both of you. What have you learned from one another?
For starters, family doesn't have to be blood. I'm closer to people that aren't blood related, for many different reasons. But as Spencer said, our connection right from the get-go was strong and nearly immediate. And, I just feel drawn to him. I feel, supportive. We chat back and forth regularly. Sometimes it'll go a week or two where there's not much, but other times it's lots of conversation for a day or two. And, I have family members that I don't talk to as regularly as I talk to Spencer. And it's just this connection, and, it doesn't have to be blood. So yeah, we do call each other brothers. We do lean on each other. We do talk about, life situation, school, kids, jobs, finances, like any of it, all of it. And it's just a comfortable place to be. And, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And for sure, Spencer's a brother of mine.
I definitely agree with what Chad's saying, and like that support, like it's something that you think of family when you think of that kind of support. Like Chad would do anything to help me if he can, and I would do anything to help him if I can. That's what makes family, not blood. So exactly, pretty much what Chad said. At the same time, like I know that Chad's been through a lot, and I've been through a lot in the past, and to see how much that Chad has like progressed in life and become the person he is today gives me, motivation to do the same thing. Like since I've met Chad, I've decided that I need to go back and finish my education. I've decided, that I kind of want to be the person that Chad is someday. I want to be a person like that. He's a role model to me. So definitely, like you said, like blood doesn't mean family, and family doesn't mean blood. Like Chad's definitely a brother to me.
When does your mother get out? I know she's not in jail now. She's in
actually, she's not in the Healing Lodge anymore.
Oh, she's not in the Healing Lodge.
No,
okay.
She's on she's out on parole, day parole. So she gets to work and kind of have a regular ish life as much as she can. Not really, but she's still got a lot of control going on. She's still technically incarcerated. She has like stipulations of what she can and can't do, and she has to be home by certain times. And like my mom used to work a government job before all this happened. Now my mom works a basic job like anybody else.
Right. Chad, have you met Catherine yet at this point?
No, I have not.
Or is that something you're looking forward to or thinking about doing?
Yeah, I have in my mind a vision as to, possibly one day meeting face to face. Quite a few years ago, I did write her a letter when she was still in the Healing Lodge, sharing my forgiveness. And, I'd like to share those words face to face with her one day. If and when that happens, I don't know that, but I'm certainly open to it.
Okay, so the ball's kind of in her court then at this moment?
I don't know. It's still all kind of new as far as, she's out on day parole and getting her feet underneath her. And when on my side, the book came out last year, and I can only imagine some apprehensions on her part as to, what the repercussions are with a book talking about her and her family. So, it's not something I would push for or rush into. Let's say that. It's, I'm open to it if it were to happen, and I don't have any reason to push for it or have a timeline on it.
That's fair. Have you read the book, Spencer?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Shortly after it was released, Chad actually hand delivered me my copy to Regina with some nice notes inside and a signature. And I got right to reading it. I took it to work with me and everything, and read it on the road because I was riding passenger in a semi truck all summer. So I kind of got time to sit down and read that. I read through that as quickly as I could. It was hard. It was a hard reading. I've read a lot of books, but there's not too many of them that I've ever read that I had that kind of personal connection to. And there is some really some heart-wrenching pieces, in that book, especially when talking about his family hearing about the accident happening and their time in the hospital and the decisions they had to make and stuff. There was times where I really had to put it down and come back tomorrow, or put it down and come back in a few hours, because I just couldn't read through the tears anymore.
Yeah. I was telling Chad the same thing, and I'm not even connected to it at all. So it is a very emotional read. So I can only imagine what it'd be like for you to read it.
My mom's actually got a copy of the book now as well. When Chad delivered me the book, he delivered a copy for my mother. And at first she didn't really seem like she was too interested in reading it, but she actually reached out to me a few months ago and asked me to deliver her copy of the book, and said that she's going to do her best to try and read it. And I don't know how much she's actually read yet. And we don't talk that often, but we try to keep in touch. But I haven't bothered her about it. I'm trying not to rush her into reading it, because like Chad said, it's a big thing to go through that situation and then turn around and have to read a book about you and your family and about the situation that you caused and stuff. I know it was hard for me to read it because of the connection I have to it. And I'm not how hard it must be for her to try and read that.
There's one line from the book I wrote down here that kind of grabbed me. It says, "Not all is lost. They still live on in a powerful message." I thought that was really, really great, because you are speaking out about it, and your sister is speaking about it. She's a teacher, and she goes to, is it mad or sad?
She's tied to both. She's spoke at both. Predominantly, though, in school settings is where she has done most of her speeches about it.
Gotcha. And I don't know why that one grabbed me so much, because I don't know, to lose 4 people, but to say not all is lost is powerful. It's yeah.
To me, it's a choice. It's a choice whether to carry on from, some of the really tough things that we have happen in our life. We all have things that happen in our life that are terrible, that are, seemingly so hard to get over or get past when they happen. So, me sharing my story and talking about it and even writing the book, it's just to put a different perspective on it for folks. There's a way to navigate through all the tough stuff that happens in our life. It doesn't have to consume us. It doesn't have to take us down. We can grow through it, particularly when we support each other to do it. Spencer and I supporting each other through this. I marvel in it often, because, having support for one another from two sides of the coin here is pretty awesome. So, I would like to think that we can have that in every situation out there in the world. People just need to drop the judgments. People need to drop the criticisms and give one another some grace. And, at the end of the day, show support and love. And that's the way to get through all of it. There's so much conflict in the world. There's so much going on. And, to me, that this is the way to get through or to support each other through some of the tough stuff that's going on in our lives.
Mm-hmm. A couple words you use quite often in the book that are a couple of my favorite words are empathy and compassion too. I don't know why it's so hard for people to not cast judgments and to just have a little bit of empathy and compassion for one another. Do you mind if I read a paragraph from the book and then
go right ahead
and get both your kind of reactions or your thoughts on it? This is from page 139. Hurting hearts turned to healing hearts can make a huge difference in other people's lives. We have all been hurt in many different ways, and I would suggest that we all have the ability to help others get through the things we have been through. Empathy and compassion go a very long way when we reach out to others. Heart-centered caring for others has a healing quality that is undeniable. The question is, who is willing to share so openly with those around them? I have, and I will forever continue to do so, as it has been most rewarding in every way. With a full heart, I can honestly say that this tragedy has shaped me into a better human being in every single way. Initially, it was a choice, and now it is the norm. I love that paragraph. And again, I mean, that whole paragraph could be used on both sides of the coin. So, for Spencer, for your side of the coin, what does that paragraph mean to you, I guess?
Well, it's a very not normal thing, kind of the relationship that me and Chad formed, but it's something that definitely made us both better people. Like had what happened not happened, I would not be the person I am today. Chad probably wouldn't be the person he is today. Like I said, we both had struggles in our past before this all happened, and it was a struggle for years after, and still a struggle today, but we've progressed a lot from that point, and we wouldn't have progressed in the ways that we did had that not happened. And sometimes, the hurting heart knows how to love the hardest. Somebody who's had loss or has felt the same as the other person, has gone through that depression or gone through that anxiety, gone through that issue. Their heart can understand it more, can give that love that they know needs to be given to someone in that same situation.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah, it is really incredible, your relationship with each other, and because I mean, like going through this and meeting Chad, have you been able to lose judgment on others and judge others with compassion and empathy?
To be honest, since I've met Chad, like I said, there's been a lot of changes that I've made in my life, like trying to go back to school and stuff. But for sure, like since I read his book, like I look at forgiveness in a different way. Like I grew up without really a relationship with my father and stuff, and there was a reason for that, I felt, throughout my life. But at the same time, he's getting older, I'm getting older. He is my father, and I've actually tried to forgive some of those things, and I've tried to form a relationship with him again, and with other people in my past too. Like there's grudges that I held for years against people where I just don't care anymore. It doesn't bother me anymore, and that's something that I probably would have never let go of had I not read Chad's book, for sure, or met Chad at all. Yeah, like just meeting Chad and knowing him, the person that he is, the person he was, and the person he's became today. Like it's really helped push me to be a better person as well.
Does that make you feel good, Chad?
Wow. I don't know what to say or how to respond to that. I'm just out here trying to do my best and trying to be the best version of me. And the feedback I'm getting from my book, or even what Spencer's saying, is awesome, and it definitely keeps the fire lit in me as far as striving for more and trying to do my best in every situation. And the paragraph that you read from the book, what comes to mind for me is breaking down some of the walls and some of the barriers that a lot of people have up. When I was hurting the most, that's when I started talking, and that's when I started sharing. that's when I started reaching out to other people to try to, help in their situations. In a way, it was me deflecting from my situation by helping others. And, what I've realized in the last 6 years, big time, is just having conversations with others and allowing them to take some of their walls down, some of their perceptions away, or change them, is huge. Because it allows us to, in my experience, take some of the weight off my shoulders, right? If I'm not carrying all the crappy things that are going on in my life, if I can share them with others just by talking about it or sharing how I'm feeling or how I'm doing, that helps me. So, if I can help others take a brick off of their wall, I feel like I'm going in the right direction. So essentially that paragraph that you read in my book, that's sort of what I'm getting at. Particularly with men, we're told not to cry, toughen up. I think that's a load of bull, especially nowadays. I think things are different. Sharing our feelings and how we're doing is more important than ever, so we can work through some of the challenges that we have in our life.
Well, kind of what you're saying is very similar to, I'm in recovery from addictions, and it's very similar to the 12 steps. Once you kind of got yourself figured out, then helping others is the next thing. It's like step 12. And it not only are you helping others, but it's also helping you by helping others. So it's like this constant give and take and learning. So I kind of get that a bit. I like what you said too about men and being opening up and how that whole thing is step up and be a man and all that shit.
I would definitely say like there's such a taboo behind, men being emotional, and men like everyone thinks, oh, you're a man, you have to just deal with your stresses, deal with your conflicts, you don't talk about them, you just figure it out and do it, be a man about it, but it is really a different thing with Chad. Like I don't have to be like, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm fine. I got it covered. If I'm having a bad day, if I'm depressed or stressed or whatever, I know I can tell Chad exactly how I feel. I can message Chad up or give him a call and be like, I'm about to cry. And he's not like, man up, and that's like something different. That's something different. It's not something that you can do with a lot of people. Not as a man.
Right. This sounds a lot like AA. He sounds like a sponsor, and you guys are going through the 12 steps with each other and stuff. And
it may be very similar in that sense, like AA is just one big support system, right?
Exactly.
Well, we are our big support systems for each other. So yeah, you're gonna see a lot of similarities in that, and Chad's pretty much broke it down into steps of how to do it. So yeah, it's pretty. Pretty simple. I mean, to explain, it's hard, but it is pretty simple in the end. Like Chad's done everything since the crash to be able to understand it. He went to like self-help conferences, and he went to all sorts of like different conventions, to learn about himself and learn about forgiveness and learn about holistic life and all things like that. And he's really kind of, I feel like he's grabbed hold of forgiveness and grabbed hold of like what actually matters in life, and like he just held on to it and just never let it go, and it's definitely rubbed off on me, I'd say.
Nice. Yeah. Chad, were you always this, sensitive and vulnerable, or was it because of the crash that you've kind of have a different perspective?
I would say that's a hard no. I was not like this before the accident. Truthfully, I never went inward or dealt with feelings or how I was doing, or, sharing emotion or even understanding emotion or like any of that. I didn't dive into that until, I was going through this terrible grief fog and trying to figure out what's the next step forward to survive. And really digging deep and figure out who the heck I was. So the accident truly changed who I was and who I am in every single way. and for the better. I don't have any hang-ups or regrets or, hard feelings towards, I could have went the other direction in that car crash could have sunk me and changed me for the worst. I chose otherwise. I chose to dig deep and figure out who the heck I was. So, that's a long-winded answer, but I'm completely different in every single aspect, and in a positive, good way.
Yeah, I like how you say that it's a choice, and you chose to go one way. And I remember talking to a counselor one time about this, and I said I really worry about it, and they said the same thing. It's a choice. I was like, how can emotions and grief be a choice? And he said, well, you'll see. It's a choice. Like you definitely have emotions you have to go through, but whether you get stuck in those emotions or be proactive is a choice. So
and the fact that you're asking the question suggests that you have the emotional maturity to deal with it already. Because if you're already looking into that and wondering about it and how you would react to it, I'm going to suggest that you already have some emotional maturity around that, and you'll navigate through it okay.
I entirely agree that it's definitely a choice. When I heard about the accident, like there's a lot of different ways that you can react to that, right? Like
absolutely.
I tried a few different ones before I got to where I am now, that's for sure. And it definitely is a choice. There's a choice that you have to make at one point. Like, do I want to progress from here, stay where I am, or move backwards? And you have to make that choice. And it's definitely a hard choice to make, that's for sure.
It's interesting. I don't know what I would do in that situation on either side of that coin, but it sounds like you guys made the right choices. Is there anything you want to say, Spencer, before you go?
Really just want to say thanks for having me here. It's definitely a hard subject to talk about. Still, probably will always be. But like I said, I'll do anything to support Chad and the movement that he's pushing toward of just, making the right choices and, forgiveness. And I really like to promote his book because it does have a really good message. So just thanks for having me, pretty much.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for doing this. It's really been an honor speaking with both of you. So I really, really appreciate that you did this. So yeah, we'll keep in touch. I'd like a 3-way hug if we could through the screen.
That sounds amazing.
A fist bump instead. There we go.
Appreciate you, Spencer. Thanks for doing this, and Todd. It was great conversation, great chat, and I think it's important that the conversation keeps going. Mental health and addictions, and there's so much going on right now. So if we all do our part to keep the conversations going in our circles, we're going the right direction. So thank you for this.
Okay, Spencer's gone. What do you really think of him? Oh shit, he's still here. Oh, sorry, I'm a bit of a smart ass.
All right, I'm going to take off, you guys. Have a good one.
Okay, thank you again, Spencer. Is there anything that you want to say before we shut it down?
I'm in a bit of a transition period where, sort of what I was alluding to before about tearing down the walls and helping other people share their voice, find their voice, share their emotions, find their emotions. I'd like to do more of that, and promoting my book and having people understand more of my journey and how I've navigated through this and who I am speaks for itself. I think there's a lot of value in my book. It's available on Amazon. It's available on survivingthecrash.co on my website, or snoop me on social media and reach out to me. I can get you a signed copy. Any of those routes are great.
I'm going to say maybe you should consider being a life coach or something like that.
Truthfully, that's what I'd love to do. I have coached and mentored a few different people in the last 2 or 3 years, and I absolutely love it. So I think there'll be some changes going forward as far as my occupation and what I do.
Thanks again, Chad Spencer. One of my favorite episodes, and you guys were just amazing. Again, that originally aired April 2022, episode 40. You can go back and check out all the great old episodes from over the last almost 3 years. Hey, be sure to follow me on Instagram, Bunny Hugs Podcast. There's always stuff on there. Don't forget, rate and review, take a screenshot, email that screenshot to bunnyhugspodcast@gmail.com, and you could win a $25 gift card from Co-op. You can use that on gas, you can use that on hardware, you could use that on groceries. 4 names will be drawn January 31st. So yeah, be sure to do that. Happy holidays, everyone. Next week will be another classic episode. Then on January 4th will be the very first episode of Mental Health Headline Hot Takes with Nick and Todd. And January 7th will be a new regular episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health. Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you for listening. And please don't forget to make your beds and take your meds. Bye.